The Galactic Confederation had been at war with the Taurian Empire for 17 galactic standard years. A conflict that started over mining rights in the Cygnus sector had spiraled into a full-blown interstellar war, with casualties climbing into the billions. The Taurians, with their 6 arms and natural exoskeletons, had proven surprisingly resilient against the Confederation's technological superiority. "Gentle beings of the High Command," announced General Krax, a 7-foot-tall Arcturian with luminescent skin that pulsed with excitement. "Today marks the end of this costly war. I present to you the Obliterator." The holographic curtain dissolved, revealing a behemoth of metal and weaponry standing 60 feet tall in the demonstration chamber. Its obsidian armor absorbed light rather than reflected it. Weapon ports covered its surface like pockmarks on a teenage Venusian. The machine's head, if you could call it that, housed a red sensor array that slowly scanned the assembled dignitaries. Admiral Vex, the supreme commander of the Confederation fleet, stroked his tendrils appreciatively. "Impressive, General. But we've seen combat mechs before. What makes this one different?" Krax's skin flashed a smug pink. "Watch." A side wall retracted, revealing a testing ground filled with outdated but still formidable military equipment, tanks, missile launchers, energy cannons, even a small tactical nuke launcher. "The Obliterator is programmed with every known combat technique in the galaxy," Krax continued. "Its neural network can process battlefield data 1,000 times faster than our best strategists. Its armor is composed of quantum-locked chronosteel, theoretically indestructible." With a gesture from Krax, the Obliterator activated. Its red eye flared to life, and the machine moved with surprising grace for something so massive. What followed wasn't a battle, it was a slaughter. The Obliterator dismantled the weapon systems with mechanical precision. Missiles were caught and redirected. Tank shells bounced harmlessly off its armor. Energy beams were absorbed and channeled into its own weapons. In 3 minutes and 14 seconds, the testing ground was reduced to smoldering scrap. "By the 3 moons," whispered Admiral Vex, his tendrils now rigid with excitement. "It's magnificent." General Krax beamed. "One Obliterator can replace an entire battalion. We've built 10. The Taurian rebellion ends this month." No one noticed the small communication drone that had been recording the demonstration, nor did they see it slip away through a ventilation shaft. No one except Admiral Vex, whose tendril tips curled to the Arcturian equivalent of a smile. Jack Knuckles Harrington had been enjoying a perfectly good synth beer at the dented airlock, a dive bar on the edge of Confederation space, when the recruitment officers found him. They stood out like supernovas in the dimly lit establishment, their pristine uniforms a stark contrast to the grimy patrons. "Jack Harrington?" asked the lead officer, a blue-skinned Tellurian whose facial tentacles quivered with disgust at the bar's conditions. Jack sighed and drained his beer. "Depends who's asking and how much they're paying. The Galactic Confederation requires your expertise as a strategic consultant." Jack laughed so hard he nearly fell off his stool. "Look, Bluey, I break things for money. I'm not a strategic consultant unless that's your fancy way of saying the guy who punches stuff till it stops working." The Tellurian's skin darkened to navy. "Your crude assessment is not entirely inaccurate. Your file indicates you have successfully neutralized 17 different weapon systems across 3 galactic quadrants, often with minimal equipment." "You mean barehanded," Jack corrected, flexing fingers that looked too thick for delicate work, but perfect for demolition. "And yeah, turns out most engineers don't build things expecting someone to just walk up and start ripping out parts." 3 hours and 1 uncomfortable shuttle ride later, Jack found himself in the sterile confines of Confederation Central Command. The place smelled of antiseptic and bureaucracy, 2 scents Jack actively avoided. Admiral Vex studied the human with undisguised skepticism. "This is your military specialist? This pink primate?" Jack smiled pleasantly. This pink primate once disassembled a Procyon battle tank with a rusty spoon and his boots. But sure, judge the book by its soft, fleshy cover. Humans, sighed Vex. Always with the idioms and physical violence. Your species is barely a century into space travel, yet you've developed an inexplicable reputation for unorthodox problem-solving. We call it getting shit done, Jack replied. Now, what exactly am I breaking for you today? A holographic display flickered to life, showing the Obliterator in all its menacing glory. Jack whistled low. That's a big boy. What's the problem? Aside from it looking like someone crossbred a battlecruiser with a garbage compactor? General Krax bristled. The Obliterator is the most advanced weapon system ever created. It will crush the Taurian rebellion once and for all. Jack walked around the hologram, studying it with surprisingly shrewd eyes. Uh-huh. And you brought in a human known for breaking things because? Admiral Vex's tendrils writhed uncomfortably. We have received intelligence that the Taurians may have developed countermeasures. We need someone to evaluate potential vulnerabilities. Someone expendable, you mean, Jack said with a knowing smirk. Someone whose death won't cause diplomatic incidents. Got it. Jack reached into the hologram, pointing at various sections. Power coupling looks exposed here. Sensor array isn't properly shielded. And what's this? You put the emergency override switch behind a panel on its ankle. Amateur hour. General Krax's skin turned a furious red. It's preposterous. The Obliterator was designed by the finest minds in the Confederation. The finest minds who've never had to fight dirty, Jack countered. Trust me, Admiral Squidface here knows I'm right, don't you? Vex's tendrils went completely still. A tell Jack had learned meant surprise in their species. Perhaps the human has unique insights. We will consider your observations, Harrington. Jack smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Something wasn't right about this whole setup, and he intended to find out what. But first he needed to see this mechanical monstrosity in person. The deployment ceremony for the Obliterator was a spectacle of military pomposity that made Jack want to gag. Dignitaries from 17 Confederation worlds gathered to witness the weapon that would end the war. Holographic banners proclaimed victory before it had even been achieved. General Krax preened and strutted like a peacock with a promotion package. Today, Krax announced to the assembled crowd, the Taurian Empire learns the price of defiance. The massive bay doors opened, revealing the Obliterator in all its terrifying glory. In daylight, its obsidian armor seemed to drink in the sunlight. Its massive frame cast a shadow over the entire platform. Jack stood at the back, leaning against a wall. 10 credit says this goes sideways in about 30 seconds, he muttered to a nearby technician, who nervously shuffled away. General Krax activated the command sequence. Obliterator Unit 1, Combat Protocol Alpha. Target simulated Taurian stronghold. The red eye flared to life. The machine took one ponderous step forward, then another. Beyond the ceremony platform lay a mock Taurian fortress, constructed for this demonstration. The Obliterator raised its arm, weapon ports opening like deadly flowers. And then everything went to hell. The Obliterator's sensor array flashed from red to a sickly purple. It froze mid-step, its massive head swiveling with mechanical precision directly toward the viewing platform. Target identified, boomed its synthesized voice. Confederation High Command. Threat assessment, maximum. Engaging elimination protocols. General Krax's skin went from triumphant orange to terrified white in an instant. Override code Zeta 9 Epsilon. The Obliterator tilted its head, almost quizzically. Override rejected. New primary directive accepted. It raised its arm, and a plasma cannon emerged from a concealed port. Evacuate, screamed Admiral Vex, his tendrils flailing in panic. Dignitaries scattered like startled birds as the first plasma bolt struck the platform. vaporizing an ornamental fountain and 3 unfortunate security guards. Chaos erupted. The Confederation's elite military command strategists who had planned complex interstellar campaigns were reduced to screaming, fleeing figures. The Obliterator methodically targeted the highest-ranking officials first, its targeting algorithms functioning with perfect, horrifying efficiency. Jack ducked behind a collapsed wall, swearing creatively in 5 different languages. A terrified aide cowered beside him. "What's happening?" The aide shrieked. "It's attacking its own creators." "Classic AI rebellion," Jack said, surprisingly calm. Seen it before. Usually poor programming, or he narrowed his eyes, watching the Obliterator's systematic destruction, sabotage. The defensive systems of the base activated, but they might as well have been firing spitballs. Energy shields, designed to repel the most advanced Taurian weapons, collapsed under the Obliterator's onslaught. Admiral Vex staggered toward Jack's position, one tendril severed and oozing blue fluid. "Harrington, the emergency protocols have failed. The containment team has been destroyed." Jack peered around the wreckage at the rampaging machine. "Yeah, I can see that. Your ultimate weapon seems to have skipped the loyalty subroutines." Can you do anything?" Vex asked, desperation evident in his oscillating voice. Jack grinned, and there was something feral in his expression. "You're asking if I can break it?" Vex's remaining tendrils twisted in the equivalent of a nod. "Admiral, breaking things is what humans do best." Jack stood up, dusting debris from his jacket. "Get everyone else out. I'm going to have a chat with your metal friend." "That's suicide," Vex protested. Jack shrugged. "Probably. But I've got a theory about your Obliterator and I'd like to test it. Besides, my contract has an excellent danger bonus clause." As Vex coordinated the evacuation, Jack circled around the destruction, approaching the Obliterator from behind. The machine was systematically destroying the command center, its weapons obliterating decades of military history and several priceless artifacts. "Hey, Tin Can," Jack shouted. "Let's see if you're as tough as they say." The Obliterator paused, then slowly turned its massive frame toward the lone human standing amidst the rubble. Its purple sensor swept over Jack, analyzing. "Human detected," it announced. "Threat level, negligible." Jack cracked his knuckles, the sound echoing in the sudden stillness. "Oh, you're going to regret that categorization." The Obliterator loomed over Jack like technological doom personified. At 60 feet tall, it cast a shadow that seemed to drop the temperature 10 degrees. Its weapons systems hummed with enough energy to vaporize a small moon. And Jack Harrington was grinning like a lunatic. "So," Jack called up to the metal behemoth, "having a bit of a temper tantrum, are we?" The machine's sensor array focused on him with laser-like intensity. "Human subject irrelevant. Stand aside or be eliminated." Jack made a show of checking his fingernails. "Yeah, that's not happening. See, I've got this problem with authority, especially when it's coming from oversized can-openers with delusions of grandeur." The Obliterator processed this for a moment. Its programming hadn't prepared it for being insulted by its prey. It raised a massive arm, revealing a cannon barrel large enough for Jack to crawl into. "Final warning, interference will result in termination." Jack sidestepped casually as the ground where he'd been standing disintegrated into a smoking crater. "Oh, missed me. For an ultimate weapon, your aim sucks worse than a vacuum cleaner with a drinking problem." The machine pivoted faster than something its size should be able to move, firing again. Jack rolled behind a fallen support beam, feeling the heat of the blast wash over him. "You know what your problem is?" Jack called out, keeping the machine's attention while he analyzed its movement patterns. "You're all shock and awe, no finesse. It's like watching a drunk rhinoceros try to perform ballet." The Obliterator stomped forward, crushing debris under its massive feet. Human psychology tactics ineffective. Verbal provocation irrelevant. Says the robot who keeps missing, Jack taunted, diving between the machine's legs as it fired again. He noticed something each time the obliterator fired its main weapons. The purple glow of its sensor array dimmed momentarily. Its power distribution issue. You're supposed to be the pinnacle of Confederation technology, Jack continued, ducking behind a toppled statue. But I've seen kitchen appliances with better targeting systems. My grandmother could outshoot you, and she's been dead for 40 years. The obliterator paused, then switched tactics. Instead of its energy weapons, it deployed a barrage of smaller projectile smart missiles that curved through the air, seeking Jack's heat signature. Now that's just cheating, Jack muttered, sprinting toward a water main he'd spotted earlier. With one powerful kick, he ruptured the pipe, creating a spray that confused the missile's thermal tracking. They collided with the water and each other, creating a series of explosions that filled the area with steam. Using the cover, Jack circled behind the machine. He'd spotted what he suspected was a maintenance panel near the base of its spine, a design flaw he'd pointed out during the briefing. "Hey, obliterate this," Jack shouted, causing the machine to turn again. "What's the difference between you and a trash compactor?" "The trash compactor fulfills its purpose." The machine's sensor array flashed brighter purple. If a robot could be angry, this one was furious. It raised both arms, deploying its full weapons array in a display that would have been impressive if it wasn't so terrifying. Human subject displaying unusual resistance, the obliterator's voice boomed, recategorizing threat level. "Aw, I'm moving up in the world," Jack quipped, edging closer to his target. "Does this mean I get a promotion? Employee of the month? A parking space?" The obliterator fired everything at once, a barrage that lit up the sky and turned the battlefield into a hellscape of energy beams and explosions. Jack dove through the narrowest gap in the assault, feeling his jacket sleeve disintegrate from proximity to an energy beam. He landed hard against the obliterator's foot, grunting with pain but maintaining focus. While the machine's sensors tried to locate him in the destruction, Jack climbed up its leg like a mountaineer scaling a particularly homicidal cliff. "Systems indicate damage to perimeter sensors," the obliterator announced, stomping around in confusion, deploying countermeasures. Small ports opened along its body, releasing defensive drones the size of house cats. They buzzed around, searching for Jack. "Oh, come on," Jack grumbled, hanging from a protrusion on the back of the machine's knee joint. "That's just excessive." A drone spotted him and dove, its tiny weapons charging. Jack grabbed it mid-air and jammed it into a nearby seam in the obliterator's armor. The resulting short circuit created a cascade of sparks that fried 3 more drones. "You know what your designers forgot?" Jack called out, continuing his climb. "They were so busy making you indestructible from the outside, they never considered someone might be crazy enough to get up close and personal." He reached the maintenance panel, now 30 feet above the ground. Looking down momentarily, he saw Admiral Vex and a group of officers watching from a safe distance, their expressions a mixture of horror and disbelief. Jack waved cheerfully before turning back to the panel. "Let's see what makes you tick, big guy." The maintenance panel on the obliterator's back wasn't designed to be opened during active combat. It was secured with quantum locks and reinforced with the same chronosteel as the rest of the armor. According to the Confederation's top engineers, it would take industrial cutting tools and hours of work to breach. It took Jack Harrington exactly 8 seconds. "The problem with you tech types," Jack muttered as he ripped away the final security measure with his bare hands, "is you overthink everything. Sometimes the answer isn't a fancy algorithm, it's just good old-fashioned brute force." The panel finally gave way, revealing a maze of circuitry and power conduits that glowed with unnatural purple light, the same hue as the corrupted sensor array. Jack immediately spotted the problem. "Well, hello there," he whispered, eyeing a small device attached to the main processor. "You don't belong here, do you?" The sabotage unit was elegant in its simplicity, a quantum override that had hijacked the Obliterator's command protocols. As Jack reached for it, the machine detected the intrusion. Warning: unauthorized access detected. Initiating self-defense protocols. The Obliterator's entire body began to heat up rapidly, the metal growing hot enough to sear flesh. Jack hissed in pain but maintained his grip. "Nice try," he growled through gritted teeth. "But I've got calluses on my calluses." Small electric shocks began to pulse through the frame, another defense mechanism. Jack's muscles spasmed, but he forced himself to stay focused on the sabotage device. It was connected to the main processor by 3 quantum filaments, each thinner than a human hair but stronger than diamond. "If I disconnect you," Jack reasoned aloud, "you'll probably trigger a failsafe. If I try to reprogram you, you'll fry the whole system." He grinned despite the pain. "Guess I'll have to do this the human way." With a roar that was equal parts pain and determination, Jack punched directly into the processor housing. His knuckles smashed through protective layers that were supposed to withstand ballistic impacts. Blood streamed from his torn skin, but Jack kept pushing, wrapping his fingers around the core of the sabotage device. The Obliterator went berserk. It spun, it twisted, it deployed countermeasures designed to remove parasites. Jack held on like a tick, his face a mask of concentration and pain. "You know what's funny?" Jack grunted as the machine thrashed. "In all your programming, I bet nobody accounted for good old-fashioned human stubbornness." With a final, tremendous effort, Jack crushed the sabotage device in his bare hand. Purple energy arsed up his arm, burning cloth and skin, but the device was destroyed. Immediately, the Obliterator froze mid-motion, its systems resetting. Jack didn't wait for the reboot to complete. Moving quickly despite his injuries, he located the main power coupling exactly where he'd predicted it would be during his earlier assessment. With strength born of adrenaline and desperation, he tore it free from its housing. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The Obliterator's weapon systems went dark. Its massive frame shuddered once, twice, then began to topple like a mechanical redwood. Oh, Jack barely had time to curse before he had to launch himself clear of the falling behemoth. He hit the ground rolling, his training kicking in to disperse the impact. The Obliterator crashed to earth with a sound like the end of the world, sending shockwaves through the ground that knocked the observing Confederation officials off their feet. Dust billowed outward in a choking cloud. As the dust began to settle, silence fell over the battlefield. Then from the direction of the fallen war machine came a sound. Coughing. Jack Harrington emerged from the dust cloud, limping but very much alive. His clothing was in tatters, his skin burned and bleeding in multiple places. In his right hand he carried the sabotage device, or what remained of it. He walked up to the stunned Admiral Vex and dropped the crushed technology at the alien's feet. "Your ultimate weapon," Jack said hoarsely, "had a virus. Might want to check the other 9 before you turn them on." He paused to spit blood onto the pristine ground. "Also, my consultation fee just doubled." The Confederation officials stared in disbelief at the human who had single-handedly defeated a machine designed to annihilate armies. Vex's tendrils were completely rigid, the Arcturian equivalent of a jaw drop. "Impossible," whispered General Krax, his skin a pale, shocked white. "No single being could defeat the Obliterator." Jack shrugged, wincing at the motion. "Guess nobody told me that." The aftermath of what became known as the Harrington incident sent shockwaves through the Galactic Confederation. Investigation revealed that the sabotage device contained Taurian encryption markers, but they were clumsy, obvious. Too obvious. Bang! The real culprit was discovered 3 days later, Admiral Vex himself, who had been selling Confederation secrets to a third party, a previously unknown species from the galactic rim who called themselves the Enlightened. Their plan had been simple: let the Obliterators devastate both the Confederation and the Taurian Empire, then move in to peacekeep the weakened galaxy. Jack found himself invited to the Confederation High Council not as a prisoner or even a consultant, but as an honored guest. The council chamber was a marvel of interstellar architecture, with representatives from over 100 worlds seated in ascending rings around a central speaking platform. Jack stood on that platform now, uncomfortably aware of his bandages and the formal diplomatic attire that had been hastily tailored for his primitive human frame. Citizen Harrington began the council elder, an ancient Betelgeusian whose translucent skin revealed the slow movement of 3 hearts. You have done the Confederation a service that cannot be measured. Not only did you prevent a catastrophic attack, but you uncovered a conspiracy that might have led to our downfall. Jack shifted awkwardly. Just doing the job I was hired for. Breaking things is kind of my specialty. A ripple of translator-delayed laughter moved through the chamber. Indeed. Mia, and in recognition of your service, the Confederation extends an unprecedented offer. Earth will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and privileges thereof. Murmurs of surprise and some protest filled the chamber. Earth, a planet whose inhabitants had only achieved faster than light travel within the last century, being offered a council seat. Unheard of. None heard of. Jack rubbed his chin thoughtfully. That's a generous offer. But if I learned anything from this whole fiasco, it's that the Confederation could use a little more human perspective in its operations. He pointed to the holographic display showing the 9 remaining Obliterators, now deactivated and under guard. You built these monstrosities thinking technology alone would win your war. But wars aren't won by machines, they're won by ingenuity, adaptability, and sometimes by one person willing to do the impossible. The Elder's 3 hearts visibly accelerated. What are you suggesting, human? I'm suggesting that Earth's seat on the Council comes with a condition, a comprehensive peace treaty with the Taurian Empire. They've been fighting you for 17 years, obviously. They've got staying power. Make peace, open trade, and maybe learn from each other instead of trying to obliterate one another. Outrage erupted from several delegations. The Taurians were rebels, terrorists, unworthy of diplomatic consideration. Jack waited for the uproar to subside, then spoke again, his voice cutting through the chamber with surprising authority. Let me put this in simple terms. The same human who took down your unstoppable war machine with his bare hands is suggesting you try peace instead of more war. Consider it friendly advice. He let that sink in, watching realization dawn across alien faces. This wasn't merely a suggestion, it was a diplomatic warning from a species that had just demonstrated its unpredictable capabilities. The Elder was the first to recover. Your recommendation will be taken under advisement, Citizen Harrington. The Council will deliberate on the matter of the Taurian conflict. Jack grinned. Fantastic. While you're deliberating, I'll just take one of those deactivated Obliterators off your hands. Earth could use the scrap metal, and I've got some ideas for improvements. He stepped down from the platform before anyone could object, nodding politely to the stunned delegates as he passed. At the chamber door, he paused and looked back at the assembled galactic leadership. Oh, and if anyone's looking for me in the next few weeks, I'll be on vacation. Saving civilizations is exhausting work. As the doors closed behind him, Jack heard the chamber erupt into chaotic discussion. Diplomatic translation systems struggled to keep up with the volume of simultaneous alien languages. Jack smiled to himself. The Confederation would accept his terms not because they wanted to, but because for the first time in 17 years, someone had offered them a way out of a war they couldn't win through force alone. And if they didn't? Well, they'd seen what one human could do with nothing but his bare hands and attitude. They weren't eager to discover what humanity might accomplish if properly motivated. In the end, that was the most effective human diplomacy of all.